when I started all of this, there was no, like, now there's books on like the neuroscience of your relationship with nature. There wasn't
Mm,
any of that. And I was just like, okay, well, let's think of nature as a nervous system. Let's think of nature as an ecosystem, right? Like, how
right.
is that ecosystem and my relationship to that impacting my nervous system?
Hey, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Love, Loss, and Hallucinations, where we start with those three themes and see where the conversation takes us. Today's guest, a very interesting human, if I don't say so myself, named Michael Jospé. And he is the CEO of Earth-Based Institute, which he founded in 2004. EBI, Earth-Based Institute, is the only Level 2 accredited International Coaching Foundation training program that is focused on transformational nature connection. A longtime certified coach himself, Michael has a master's in transformational learning, as well as certificates in Gestalt psychology and evidence-based coaching. He is joining us from Boulder, Colorado, where he lives with his wife and two sons and many, many animals, from what I hear.
That's right.
Welcome to the show, Michael. Thanks for joining us.
Scott.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So great to have you here. And I should just want to be fully upfront right here in that I am actually currently just finishing getting a coaching certificate myself through EBI. So I might have a little inside track knowledge on what we're going to be talking about here, but I think that'll make for a better conversation. So
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, let's get into it. I think just to start, I think, there's at least some people I know who aren't really like clear about what exactly coaching is versus, say, therapy, and where are the differences there? Because I feel like there is a bit of a gray line. So I'm hoping you could just kind of define that first.
Yeah. So inherently, coaching is therapeutic. Coaching is designed to be transformational, right? Even if you think about kind of your kind of run of the mill standard coaching to be about performance based. Okay. Performance and productivity is directly related to transformation. As you transform and become more efficient in yourself and understanding yourself, your own path to your own mastery, you're going to become more effective, more productive, more, masterful at whatever it is that you're doing. So coaching is inherently transformational. Now, one of the big differences between coaching and therapy is that coaching is not clinical and it's not based on treatment. It's not based on diagnosis. It's based on helping somebody identify their own strengths and goals and drawing out that inner wisdom that they have to help them find their way towards the outcome that they're trying to achieve in their life. So if somebody comes to coaching with kind of a therapy type, challenge or goal that they have, like wanting to be able to, say, overcome their depression or something like that, we're not focusing on it from a place of treating depression. We're not really focused on the idea of the definition of it's more around what depression looks like and means like to them and how they want to transform that. And from a coaching perspective, we'll collaborate with therapists and work in alignment with the clinical process, but we approach it from a different angle. But coaching in and of itself is therapeutic and it's transformational. Yeah,
I understand. And I'm curious, why would someone come to a coach versus a therapist? You sort of touched on it, but is there a deeper answer there?
Well, I mean, people will seek out coaching for all sorts of reasons, and I think like at the kind of one way to think about it is that successful people always have help. They always have help around them.
Right.
And so with therapy, there's kind of more of an angle of something's wrong that needs to be fixed or
Mm-hmm.
healed or something like that. And from a coaching angle, it's I'm trying to, move forward. I'm trying to progress. I'm trying to transform something in my life. So I'm going to seek out support and help to be able to do that. I think there's definitely overlaps. I mean, people seek out therapy for the same reasons. And I think for good reason too, because some of our internal challenges that we face in reaching those goals, can be absolutely supported by both therapy and by coaching. And I think it's important that as coaches, we understand the therapy models and we understand what that looks like and what the difference is.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, as you alluded to, like if it feels like there's an issue there that needs a therapist or even a psychiatrist, like you're not adverse to having, the coaches you train say, yeah, have these resources, reach out to them, incorporate them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's good coaching, really, to think from a team perspective.
Yeah. The whole team,
Yeah,
like an NFL team, it's not just the main coach. It's like the
that's
whole
correct.
slew of specialty coaches, I guess.
That's right. Yeah.
Um, I'm curious, what drew you to bring nature into coaching when you started EBI 21 years ago? I mean, that wasn't the norm then. It's not even the norm now
Well,
necessarily.
that
So,
was it's interesting that you ask it that way because it was the other way around. It was,
oh,
how do I bring it? Nature was always first for me.
mm,
Nature and wilderness was always first. I had no concept of coaching or therapy or anything like that. I was more aligned and tuned into the transformational experiences that I was having out in nature, and
mm.
that I was witnessing people have as they were engaging with nature and wilderness.
Can
And
you
so
give an example of that?
well, yeah, just I remember like in graduate school, just learning how to take groups of people. I had a undergraduate degree. Sorry, in my undergrad, I had an undergrad degree in outdoor recreation leadership. Right, I
Mm.
thought that was the most amazing thing to be able to get a degree in.
So,
Basically, it was like, how do
sounds
we take people outside into the woods, and take them on these adventures? And so learning like how to take people rock climbing, learn how to take people backcountry skiing or down a river.
Mhm.
And in doing that, right, in learning these techniques, you're having to go through it with your peers and so forth, and people are going through stuff on
Mm,
that experience, right? Like
right.
that rafting trip was kind of scary, or that rock climbing move that I had to do to get through that problem was really hard, and there was stuff happening for people.
Mm,
And so those examples started to lead me into this bigger question of what's really going on there. And it feels really important. And how do we leverage that? Like at that point, there was no wilderness therapy. There was no like even like outdoor behavioral health or anything like that. There was this world of wilderness therapy that was happening, but there wasn't it was based more on an experiential model like that.
yeah.
And so this idea of like adventure being transformational, being therapeutic, how do you really leverage that?
Mhm.
That was what led me into coaching. So it was, I was coming more from the angle of nature and wilderness, and not just from the adventure side. The adventure side was big, but my background in and influence from Tom Brown Jr. and
Right.
John Young in nature, deep nature connection and earth living skills and so forth was really where that was highlighted for me,
Yeah.
was that there is a powerful conversation that we can be having with nature that is not just about being out there and having some experience, but it's being in relationship with. And so the combination of those two things is really what kind of led me into, okay, how do I like actually package this in a professional way for
Mm.
myself? Right? Like, how do I do this professionally? So I looked down the road to therapy. At the time, I was working for Naropa University, helping them design their masters in wilderness therapy, and realized that path of clinical therapy wasn't the path for me and
Mm.
how it came together. So I started looking at coaching, and coaching really opened, had a real opening, I think, the um, for the experiential model that was a part
Mm.
of the way that I was perceiving nature and
Yeah.
working with people in nature. Yeah.
Well, and before kind of getting to how you went about developing this for yourself, for clients, and that sort of thing, just quickly for those out there who don't know, who touch on who Tom Brown Jr. and John Young are, and
Yeah.
as mentors to you as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first I want to say it's been almost a year now that Tom passed.
Mm-hmm.
So he passed in August of last year, and Tom Brown wrote several books. First book was written in the 70s, all on wilderness survival and living close to the earth
Mm-hmm.
and nature connection. And he had a very unique childhood of being mentored and raised by an Apache elder.
Mm.
And from a very young age, from about 7 to about 17, 18 years old, and developed a school where he started teaching these skills. And one of his very first students was a young boy about the same age as Tom was when Tom started being mentored by Stalking Wolf. His teacher was John Young. And John Young has gone off to, over the years, develop all sorts of amazing programming and literature and so forth on this form of indigenous education. And and when you look at the world of nature connection, you look at the different programs that are out there that are offering something along those lines of a deep relationship and connection to nature. They're pretty much inspired by one of those two
Mm.
guys,
Yeah, including
Tom or
yourself.
John, including myself. That lineage is very powerful. It's a
Mm.
very powerful lineage that has a really good, strong message, and um, you
Mm.
know, aims to have a really positive impact in the world. So it's wonderful to see all of those options that
Mm.
are out there for
Yeah,
people.
just how
Yeah,
it's rippled out into the world in
that's
many
right. Yeah,
multiple ways. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so I'm curious, as you went to set up EBI and started to work on clients one-on-one in this way, were there any initial stumbling blocks that you had to figure out, or like how to like really uh, have it connect with people and people to feel it?
I, I I think the bigger challenges for
Mm.
me was how to articulate the value
Mm.
to people before they came into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't when people were working with me, they understood right away, but it had more to do with like building the coaching business, I
Mm.
think, than anything else. That was the most challenging in regards to being able to talk about um, the power of nature and wilderness, and still trying to figure out how to do that, still trying to figure out how to, articulate that in that way. But the thing that I've relied on and continue to rely on is something that was just really imposed on me by Tom and John, which was to trust nature
Mm.
and to trust that nature will provide,
Mm-hmm.
that we are part of nature,
Mm-hmm.
and that if you listen and you give space, something will happen, something will open. And So I just always kept stepping into that over and over and over and over.
So
Yeah.
as you're setting this up, you're using nature to guide you as you,
Oh,
yeah,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Well, and I find it so interesting because, as you said, we are nature, and um, how easily it seems a lot of the world forgets that. And this might sound kind of woo woo to a lot of people out there, and yet you are nature. This is where you're coming from. This is what you're connected to. Your whole
Yeah.
body is for millennia,
Yeah.
millennia is like coming from nature. So it's
Yeah.
interwoven into our DNA.
Yeah. And once, the way through the woo woo is to connect experience with information. And so when there is experience that someone has that's undeniable, it's no longer woo woo. It's that was real. That I really felt that. I really understand that. But if you don't understand it, and this is the challenge of being able to articulate the value in something like this, is that if you don't understand it, yeah, it can come across as, oh, nature is, woo woo or whatever. You're just selling nature or whatever that might be. But there is something that's happening there. There's a deep relationship that is our birthright. And that's, that's a truth of who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you say that it's our birthright. It
Yeah.
absolutely is. I'm wondering, is there like a simple exercise that you could that comes to mind now that people who might want to just kind of experience this on a very, initial level might be able to go out and do?
Yeah. So, I think that the most, important step that we can take in moving into that kind of relationship with nature, is to get out of our kind of thinking mind and more into our observational mind. And to just start with our sensory awareness of beginning to tune into what I'm noticing right now on the landscape. And when we start to also bring that question inward, what am I noticing on the landscape, but what am I noticing internally at the same time? Because what we're doing is we're kind of coming out of our head, where we're either thinking about the future or we're thinking about the past, and we're coming into the present moment. And nature is a reflection of the present moment, and what's happening in your body is a reflection of the present moment. So when we're listening to both like that, when we can tune ourselves to be listening to both, then we can start to ask some other questions. We can start to ask for insights and direction and information about our lives, about the world around us, and begin to look for direction and insight from nature. And so an exercise to really kind of just start with that, I think, is to just find a space where you can sit quietly out in nature for, you got to give yourself at least 10-15 minutes of sitting
to allow
there.
you to get out of your rational head.
Yeah. And you have to have that intention. You can't just go out there with your phone and expect something like that to happen. You've got to go out into nature with the intention of being in relationship, with the intention of being connected to it. So you want to go out and give yourself the space to be able to do that and to observe. And there's really not much else that you need to do other than just observe. And if you want to journal what you observe or something like that, whatever's going to help you stay in that space of observation is helpful. But that's really a starting point right there, is to develop a relationship with a place and observe what's happening in that place. Notice what the birds are doing. What's the weather doing? What are the plants doing? How are these things that are there changing throughout the day? How are they changing throughout the season?
How's it smelling, and what does it feel against your skin? Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love this saying from John Young. He says, if you know one place really well, all places.
Mm,
And it's a
that's
really
beautiful.
kind of a neat concept that a place to really connect opens you up to
Yeah.
all places. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to note, like, a lot of people might think, oh my God, well, I live in a city in a condo or in an apartment building and I don't have nature around me. But it really, in my experience, you can do it in a park, you can do it under one tree. You don't have to like have a huge forest nearby to like make this
Right.
happen.
Yeah, we have one of our community members lives in the Bronx, and he always says that it's not what is his line? He says it's not how much nature you have, it's how you interact with what
Mm,
it's where it's how you connect with what you do have, what you
yeah.
look for. I know he said it so much more poetically. It's true. There's a few folks in our community that live in very urban areas, but are deeply committed to the practice of nature connection.
Mm, that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
And I'm wondering, you're a lifetime into this work, really, but especially around EBI, like what is it that you love about this approach to coaching? Like what excites you about it?
Oh, um, well, I think one of the things that just kind of comes to the forefront when you ask that question
Hmm.
is that that it's that being able to note it, observe how the impact that nature has on the client,
Mm,
or on myself, but when you kind of are in that place of relationship, you're in that place of collaboration with nature as a guide, as a coach, you really don't have to do that much. Like, nature does all the work.
yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with how you set that up. Like, the
Mm,
work is around setting it up and then helping to integrate it. And
hmm.
that's where we step in that as facilitators. But nature does all the work.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And that's actually one of the, if not the main reason that like attracted me to this particular program. And I would say coaching in general is like, I was certainly a person who was like, I don't want to be telling people what to do. I don't want to be like,
Right.
you know, I'm just me. Right. But
Yeah.
then to be able to witness someone go out in nature, have this deep experience, which is going to land deeper and harder than me telling them anything anyway. And then just as you said, helping integrate that is it's a beautiful process to witness, as you mentioned.
Yeah. And the key is, your willingness to be in the unknown
Mm,
with
mhm,
your client. And that's where all the magic happens. And so, you know, while we're also kind of learning techniques and tools and skills and everything, really
mhm.
powers to be able to be in the unknown.
Yeah.
And what that does for me personally is it keeps everything new. It's like the first time every time. Um, the minute I start getting predictable about, or, oh, this is what's going to happen, making assumptions and starting a plan, it actually becomes less enjoyable. Um, it's for me personally, it is way more rewarding to be in the present and in the unknown with my client and watching things unfold.
Mhm.
And with coaching, we get to kind of hold a little bit of both because we have the client's desires, the client's goals that we're kind of focusing into the unknown with, right?
Mhm.
So, like with our coaching sessions, we want our clients to walk away with something. It's not just about going into an empty slate and seeing what comes out of it.
Right.
But how do we work with the unknown to really support our client um, to discover what they need to discover and transform the way they need to grow. And nature is just the perfect place for that.
Mm-hmm. Totally is. I was just working with some clients this last weekend, and just, just from a daisy to sitting next to a river to grass blowing in the wind, like, you'd be
Yeah,
amazed what people can get from those, just even something that seems so simple.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. It's usually the most simple, you know, experiences, or like, the wind blowing, or,
Mm-hmm.
like seeing a flower like that, that just has the most profound impacts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, as you said, part of, like, as a coach, one of the amazing things is just sort of the unknown that you're stepping into with the client. That can certainly be edgy and maybe a place of fear for the client. Do you find there's a certain type of person that's drawn to this kind of work? Um,
That's a good question. Well, I think the for the at the at the heart of who is drawn to this work is someone that already believes that nature in and of
mm,
itself is inherently transformational, and they kind of know in their soul that it's just about getting someone outside. It's just about getting someone to connect with their environment. And we keep talking about outside and so forth, but we can do this on Zoom too. I mean,
uh-huh,
we can work with my clients on Zoom all the time, and our whole program now is online. So our whole, majority of the certification program is done online. So how do we create the same effect and create same connection through online is an important question to be looking at.
uh-huh.
But I think that it's really that, someone's already got that inherent knowing inside of them, and that's going to come from their own experiences, really.
Right. That's what I was going to say. They've had some experience in their own life. And, I think that can be as simple as the awe you feel at a sunset, or, those
Yes,
magical moments when, the dew on the grass, or seeing a family of deer just walking through,
that's
and
right. Yeah,
it connects with something inside of you.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I also want to just touch on that. One of the things I appreciate about EBI's program is, you also get pretty deep into brain change and the science behind changing habits and ways of being, behavior, that sort of thing. Um, which I love, because it helps counter some woo woo aspects, I guess,
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I just want to, like, ask, like, was there a moment you're like, oh, I need to bring this more science based stuff in, or it just happened naturally?
For me, personally, I I always want to understand how things are happening.
Mm,
How am I having that experience right now?
right.
Like I would go through these trainings and experiences with Tom and John, and some of them with both of those guys, but I think of John in particular, um, that were absolutely mind blowing. Where I'm like, how is this happening? What just happened here?
Yeah.
And that was kind of a doorway for me to understand, like, okay, so how does this happen?
Hmm.
What what does this look like? And I kind of, in my early days, right, started to kind of think more philosophical at first, but then I started to move away from that and being like, okay, well, where's all this philosophical thinking coming from? What is all this, driving all this? And I'm like, okay, well, we've got a brain, and that's part of nature, right? Like our brain is, or
Hmm.
our body is our brain. And so where in neuroscience, where in brain research can I find information that helps me understand, um what's changing inside of me, or where how this relationship is impacting me.
Mm.
And so that really led me into this kind of discovering this world of interpersonal neurobiology. And when I started all of this, there was no, like, now there's books on like the neuroscience of your relationship with nature. There wasn't
Mm.
any of that. That was the only place I could find anything
Wow.
that connected with this idea of relationship, the impact of another nervous system. And I was just like, okay, well, let's think of nature as a nervous system. Let's think of nature as an ecosystem, right? Like, how
Right.
is that ecosystem and my relationship to that impacting my nervous system, and vice versa.
Mm.
Um, and so that was really the kind of the doorway into the science side of it. But for me, it really, really is important to have research and information behind some of these things that we teach,
Mm-hmm.
because I want all of our students to feel like what they're doing is real, and it's not just based on some kind of even indigenous concept,
Mm-hmm.
but it's actually rooted in something that goes, look, this is what's actually happening. This is why we're asking these questions. This is why this type of experience is helpful and important in this moment. And here's the research that we know about that supports that, so we can make good informed decisions
Mm.
that are really going to help our clients.
Yeah. Well, and I've definitely, from my own personal experience, found that to be the case. Um, I'm wondering, is there a specific book, if people were interested in reading about this more, that comes to mind? One, and two, if there is one of those experiences that you had with Tom or John that you're just like, wow, that really got you like curious about what was happening inside your brain and body, that you'd be willing to share.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in terms of just like um, interpersonal neurobiology, that concept right there, there's a book that's just called the Handbook
Mm.
of Interpersonal Neurobiology, which is in a way, it's like a glossary of these different concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Daniel Siegel is an author that was part of the original kind of group of researchers that started to really write about and speak about this idea of interpersonal neurobiology. So books by Daniel Siegel would be really wonderful as well. So that's kind of an inroad into that whole world.
Perfect.
um, but I think one of the experiences I remember with John, um, and the minute I say that, I start thinking of all these different memories. But I'll just share this one where, I remember walking with John in this wilderness area in Idaho, and I was part of a wolf tracking
Mm.
expedition there.
Oh, that's cool.
And um, there was, the group was out searching for signs of these wolves, and John and I were walking up this road, and all of a sudden he stops, and he says that he kind of stops and he's listening. He goes, "The elk are moving right now in the other meadow on the other side of that ridge.
What?
There's a herd of elk moving." And I just remember, like, and the way that he said it to me was so matter of fact, so direct, um, like almost as if he had just got a phone call from somebody saying, "Hey, there's a herd of elk moving." And I remember asking him, "How do you know this?" And I had kind of a sense already from my training with him and with Tom Howe, but it was hard not to like immediately be kind of like, how do you know that, John? You know?
Yeah.
And he kind of got he didn't like me asking that question. Um, but I started to it started to really understand more about this in that moment. It was an important teaching or a opening into learning more about the concept of concentric rings
Mm,
and how certain you can't move through space without impacting that space and
mhm.
without impacting all those that are involved in that space.
Could you just briefly go into what do you mean by concentric rings?
Yeah. Um, well, just to kind of try to keep it as simple as possible, if you imagine like a calm pool of water,
Hmm.
okay, when you throw a stone into a calm pool of water, it creates concentric rings. And but it's not just on the surface, right? That stone is falling through the water and it's impacting
Mm,
the water on all levels. As the stone is displacing that water,
hmm.
right? Now, nature is not just calm ever. There's always movement that's happening. But if you think of the environment that you're in, like that pool of water, when something or someone moves through that, it's
Hmm.
going to create a concentric ring through that space. And um, that is, you might not see the stone being thrown in,
Hmm.
right? Yeah, but what is being displaced, right? There's a whole there's more than just like the air and so forth that's moving in that, right?
Hmm.
There's also all of the electromagnetic energy that's a part of that space in that moment. Anything that's alive is producing an electromagnetic field around it. So there's accumulation of all of that energy
Hmm.
that is now being displaced as well. So you can, if you're really listening, you're at your, sit area like we talked about earlier, and you're observing and you're listening, you might actually feel something happen.
Mm,
You might actually feel the impact of a hawk flying over your yard as the birds that are just normally having a good old time and eating and doing their thing react to that predator flying over and the impact that that has. So we start to see the changes in that space that we're in, going up and going down based around the level of impact that's happening at that time. And it's reflected on the land, and we can feel it, but we can also hear it and see it because the birds and the animals that are living in that space are responding to it as well.
right.
So it opens this idea of concentric rings opens up a huge, wonderful world that Tom and John call bird language, and really listening to the language of nature
Yeah.
and starting to, begin to interpret and understand what's happening. And in many ways, you could even say that's the first language.
Right. Right. That's back in the day, like everyone was very tuned into the environment. And I feel another example that came to me as you were saying that, is maybe not out in nature, but I feel like a lot of people could relate to is like if you're asleep in a very dark room and someone slyly, softly walks into the room, I feel like almost everyone has that sense of like something's changed in this room,
Totally.
even if they're asleep. And so that's
Absolutely.
very similar to what you're talking about. And John was
Yeah.
just detecting it on the other side of a ridge. No big deal.
That's right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah. We feel these things all the time, whether we are aware of them or not. It's happening around us all the time. And, another example that I often think about is like you're driving on the highway and there's a speed trap up ahead, right? You could start to sense that beforehand. You start to notice, well, something's off, something's different about traffic. All of a sudden, there's this change. That's another example. Somebody walks into a space that has a particular vibe about them. Maybe they're unsafe or something like that. You feel it, you notice it. People, whether they're conscious of it or not, their nervous system is responding to that change.
Yeah. Our bodies are so perceptive if we only pay attention.
That's right. Yeah. So observation skills.
Yeah. I'm one other thing that's coming to me that I do want to touch on that I appreciate about EBI's course, particularly given the title of this podcast, is just how there is particular intensive time spent around grief and loss.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, why did you decide to include that? How did that come to be? It's a super valuable part in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, gosh, I started to realize, in my times of working with clients and so forth before I started the training that, there wasn't a client that I worked with that didn't have some form of trauma or hadn't experienced some form of loss. Didn't have to be a death or something like that, but a loss of a friend, a loss of a home, a loss of a job, like there was, some catalyst, a transformation or something along those lines that had to do with grief. And you look at that and that is a huge part of humanity and it's everywhere. I mean, the grief and loss is everywhere. It's a part of our lives. It's, it's so significant. And then going through my own loss and grieving and looking to nature as a way for how to process and work with my grief was another kind of doorway into, gosh, this is just important. And we need to find a way to bring it into our curriculum.
Yeah. It certainly helps deepen the ability, I think, to empathize with the clients or whoever, and not even a client, just other humans, having gone through that course. I'm wondering, or that intensive, and I'm wondering, having, presented this work around grief and loss many times, having your own grief and loss, like anything that comes to mind that, sort of a big lesson you have learned from it or about it?
I know for myself that, I grew up in a family dynamic, in a, was never learned how to grieve. Like that wasn't something that was, and in fact, it was don't grieve, like don't feel that. And one of the things that I remember really kind of struck me in my experience of living with and learning from indigenous cultures and was their ability to grieve. And at first I remember being like, gosh, this is so weird. Like, this is so like uncomfortable. But I started to realize, like, this is part of life. This is healthy. This is healing. This is important to be able to grieve, to feel the impact of something, whether it is grieving the destruction of the earth, the whatever's happening in humanity, to let yourself feel the loss of something as opposed to resisting that, and holding on to it or avoiding it, and that community is a really important element to, I think, healthy grief. And
having community,
also having
grieving with the community. Yeah.
Grieving with the community, having people around you that can hold it and hear it and support it. And when I think about what nature connected coaches can offer people is the space to be able to do that. Yeah.
It's important work for sure. So I'm appreciative that it was in the curriculum.
Yeah.
As I was preparing for the podcast and, reading through the EBI website again and reading your bio, there's one line that you have in there that says that you believe each person has a unique purpose in life, a purpose that is important to the health and balance of our society as well as the environment. I'm wondering, I guess, do you really believe that? And where does it come from?
Yes, I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe that, we are, we have our life experiences, how we're wired individually, our genetics, our, predispositions, attune us to be able to hear the needs in the world, and listen, hear certain things and have unique insights into how to support them. And I feel like these insights are connected to our purpose, our individual purpose. And that we can, like I said, connect those to our own unique wounds and our own unique life experiences. But what you and I share a common vision of, humanity's relationship to nature and to the earth and to each other. But what you hear and what you see and how you imagine that you would be supporting that is slightly different from the way that I do. And we inspire each other. And you're creating a podcast to be able to bring that gift to the world, to be able to live that purpose even more efficiently. And there's questions that you're asking, there's curiosity that you're holding that I don't ask those same questions. I don't think about it in the same way, but we're both working towards a similar goal. We have an aligned purpose in that way. And I think that, we hear these things and we hear these calls, these inspirations, these ideas and motivations and like that when we're willing to really listen to nature, to ourselves. And so I absolutely believe it.
I figured the answer would be yes, but well, and I think, just based on having gone through the program and, talking to you, to me, that is another like big avenue of this type of coaching, which is to connect with that deeper, authentic self and what you need to bring to the world, both for the world and for yourself to be more fulfilled with life.
I'm glad you get that. I'm glad you see that. Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Well, that to me is a successful outcome of this coaching training, that
Mm.
you're able to name that. So
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. And I'm curious what role, because we do touch about on this a bit, but what role, how does myth like weave itself into that?
Yeah. Well, the way that I look at myth, it has more to do with a neuroscience perspective than anything else.
Yeah, we're not talking like Goldilocks. We're talking.
The way that I relate to that idea of myth is that it's one of the things that helps resolve conflict that we have in our minds and our stories. And myth provides us with not just kind of a feeling of hope, perhaps, but a direction for how we might start to resolve and work through whatever it is that we're um, holding. And myth is a big component to all of this. It's the evolution, in my mind, it's the evolution of a story. It's the next step beyond a repetitive story. But what is the myth that, that story is leading us to? And I think that myth is a word that gets used a lot. There's a lot of really wonderful research and understanding around the concept of myth. So it can get a little confusing on that end. Like, what are we really talking about? But for me, I really hold it from a neuroscience perspective, something that's shifting inside of our brains and our minds as we are organizing ourselves.
Creating your own personal myth for, say, who you want to be going forward, as an example.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And really working around embodying that, techniques to like bring that to life, I guess.
Yeah.
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 Cool. And yeah, I'm just a big fan of myth, so I had to get in that.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Well, in these last couple of minutes that we have, I do want to touch on how EBI has recently started a psychedelic integration program. With Sarah Hope helping to organize that, who has also been on this podcast. I'm not sure if it's going to be before or after this one airs, but be on the lookout for that, because that's also a great conversation. And I'm just curious, obviously you're in Colorado. Colorado just legalized psychedelics and psychedelic therapy, I guess. What brought you to that point where you're like, this is a natural progression of what we're doing?
Well, the NCC, Nature Connected Coaching, is, that is integration coaching, essentially, as far as I'm concerned. Like, that is developed out of rite of passage ceremonies and how to help someone integrate powerful and transformational experiences into their lives. And what, I've been observing is, I'm not a psychedelic facilitator, but what I observe is that there are a lot of people engaging with psychedelics that are having powerful experiences in their lives, but not having enough of a container or support around them to help them integrate those experiences into their lives. So instead, they are perhaps taking more psychedelics or seeking more, opportunities for that, without really knowing how to prepare or how to integrate those experiences into their lives. And when I look at what we offer with NCC, it feels like a very natural place to step into and say, hey, look, we have a system, we have a a method for helping with that. And what Sarah's doing is she's just really kind of, in other words, it's like sharpening the knife around that specifically to the world of psychedelics and the different medicines and so forth that people might be experiencing, and those and how to actually really help integrate those particular type of experiences. But we do talk not just about plant medicine, but about the whole gamut of transformational experiences that people might be having that are, non-chemical based, but are, perhaps breath work or like, rites of passage or something along those lines that really kind of open our minds to something, new possibilities or new experiences that now leave us with some questions around, now what? Where does this lead me in my life? Yeah. What does this mean for me?
Now what? And
yeah.
And it can be, I mean, it's just so crucial to have that type of integration with any of those experiences you just mentioned. And I, speaking from personal experience where I have not had it, and the difference of having it is just night and day as far as really taking that transformation and making it stick in the long run. Yeah. So, and I will say, just one of the reasons, another reason I decided to do the whole Earth-Based Institute coaching thing was for preparation and integration, helping people do that around plant medicine journeys. Like, I'm not a facilitator either, but of the actual journey itself per se.
Yeah.
But before and after, like, I guess that's, as we were talking about earlier, that's one of my purposes, I feel. So
yeah, right on. Yeah. Great.
So, and it just all flows together really, really well. So, it's been an amazing, like I said at the beginning, I'm about done, and it's been an amazing year, and I know it's going to keep evolving and deepening. So, is there anything else you'd like to add here, that the people out there in the world should know about EBI, about any of the work you do?
Well, I think that, a couple things is that, just there's an open invitation to be part of the EBI community for people who feel aligned to what we're talking about and what we're doing here. And we often, regularly hold a community council, which is open to the public of, people who are interested in this and feel like they want to have a space to be heard or to be listened, or to listen to others that are, talking about their relationship to nature and so forth.
And that's free?
That's free. Okay. Those community councils are a part of things. And then I'd also love to be able to offer your community, a nature connection course. So we've got an online, pre-recorded program on different nature connection skills, and I'll send you the link for people to access that if they'd like that. Yeah,
we'll definitely include that in the notes for sure. Where else can people find you in the meantime, or EBI, whichever?
Well, earthbasedinstitute.org is the website, and that's probably the best place to find us.
Sounds good. Awesome. Yeah. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. It was great to get deep into the weeds with you on all these topics, and really just appreciate all the work you're doing. And one question, like, if someone is interested in working with a coach, is there a place on the website where, like, people are listed if they want to find somebody in there? I mean, you said you can always do it on Zoom, but if they want it more in person, one-on-one.
Yeah, that is in the works.
Oh, cool.
We are working on what we call the Nature Connected Coaching Alliance, which is being developed as a place to find coaches. But right now, best thing is to reach out to us, and we'll find someone in your area. And we have many students that are always looking for opportunities to practice their skills and so forth. So you
Absolutely.
can actually, if you're willing to work with a student who's learning, you can actually get free coaching. So
Yes.
give it a shot.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So yeah, go to earthbasedinstitute.org, sign up for the newsletter, email them if you have a question, all those things. And in the meantime, get out in nature, connect out there.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for this wonderful conversation, Michael. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah. Great.